Hey everyone, it's Michael. I just thought I'd make a quick video about working with the mansions of the moon, and I'm going to shout out a couple of people and really recommend that you follow them. So let's get started. Sorry about the hair. Hey, it's 12th house blues, right? So anyway, what are the mansions of the moon? Well, the idea of the mansions of the moon is that you take the motion of the moon and basically how long it takes the moon to move through the signs of the zodiac each day, or should I say the entire ecliptic each day, the entire zodiac each day. And every time the moon is able to go from 0 degrees Aries in one day, that entire span is the length of a mansion of the moon. So there are 27 or 28. It actually kind of comes out to about 27.3. If you're dividing it out evenly, days for the moon to make it through. So there are a couple of traditions. The Arabic tradition has 28 mansions, and the Indian nakshatra system, which is very similar, has 27. So they divide that out and round it off a little bit differently. That's okay. So I am just working with the Arabic version because the Arabic version is a little bit closer to the Hellenic tradition, but it doesn't really matter. So the way that I've been working with it, or the reason why I'm working with it, let me start with that, is that I've really taken to this idea of reconciliation, reconciling yourself with the various if you take everything, right, everything that could be and every different way that you can slice it, if you're reconciling yourself with all of it, then you're going to be better off in the long run having actually worked with all of these different ways that you could be. As long as you're reconciled with all of those, then on the whole, life should be going pretty well for you, and you should be relatively integrated with the universe and with fortune writ large. So whether or not there are ups and downs in fortune, you're going to be okay because you're going to have a way to roll with it. Kind of a sneaky Taoist way of putting it. So then the question is, how am I working with it? Well, there are different talismans that you can make with it. And today we're in the 25th lunar mansion, and there are different images that you can draw that have to do with that particular mansion, and you use them for particular properties. And so what I found is when the moon, and this is, by the way, I want to give huge credit to Andrew B. Watt, and I'll put his Patreon in the notes to this video. But what Andrew B. Watt mentions is that when the moon is in a particular mansion, pardon the pun there, the moon will then be able to communicate with you various things about its properties, different variations on the image that you make, etc. So this is a kind of a key subtle point there, because you may be told, hey, if you make this image a little bit different this way or that way by the moon, if the moon tells you that, then it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is actually a good way to put it, to draw it, and I don't need to make the classic one that is mentioned in various classical sources. By the way, I'll also put up the link to the different images that you could make, the classically received ones in the notes to this video as well. So what do the images look like? Well, there are various ones. The third lunar mansion, it's a woman sitting, I believe, with her right hand raised above her head. And this one today is the 25th lunar mansion. It's called the Lucky of the Tenths, and I'm not sure how it derived that name. A lot of these later ones have to do with luck of such and such. The one yesterday was lucky of the luck, or the luckiest of the luck of the lucky, Sad al Sud, or yeah, Saad al-Suud, I think is how you pronounce it. The one yesterday was, the image was a woman, holding a child as if she were breastfeeding it. And the image derivation, just to give an example of the ways that, the moon can tell you stuff is, okay, when we don't really always think about this, right? But that mansion, the 24th mansion, has to do with multiplying, sort of like in that biblical sense of be fruitful and multiply. So it's used for the older version of this was used to multiply cattle, multiply herds, etc. So you could obviously use this for something that most of us want to multiply, which is money, right? So what I did is I actually drew that image or a variation that I'll get to in a second on a couple of $5 bills that I have in my wallet. And I probably, won't get rid of those anytime soon. But anyway, the point is that that's kind of where I am right now in my life. Hey, I need to focus on finances. I need to focus my magic on this. And then whenever that crisis sort of, goes away, or need goes away, I'll put it that way, then I'll be okay. So okay, when we have a child, we're literally multiplying or increasing the number of people on the earth, right? That's why the population continues to grow. So, excuse me, I got a burp that won't come. 1 second. Raw internet video feed, right? One and done, baby, one take. So anyway, speaking of babies, that same idea of multiplying, right? Where we've seen the population increase, etc. But if you really wanted something to multiply, you wouldn't just have one child, you would have twins or triplets if you could, right? I stuck with twins, right? No sense putting too much on on this poor woman who's breastfeeding. No sense pulling from Total Recall to have a woman with 3 breasts having to breastfeed 3 people. Or Through the Arc of the Rainforest, a good book, by the way. I can recommend that. So anyhow, the whole idea is that, I'm sort of, the moon was giving me, hey, the clue, hey, this is something you could do. And again, Andrew B. Watt mentions that the moon will give you suggestions of variations on that. So with that, I had her, breastfeeding two infants, or holding them as if, she's about to. And, I didn't have very huge details. I'm more of a doodler. I'm not the best artist in the world. But anyway, I had her holding those 2 infants. And then what was interesting is I mentioned the 3rd lunar mansion with the woman holding her right hand above her head, seated. In this instance, the moon was saying, go ahead and have this woman seated as well. That way we'll have a completion. Now, why would I want to complete the 3rd lunar mansion here in the 24th? Well, the reason is that the 3rd lunar mansion has to do with all good things, right? And I actually engraved that on a little piece of metal that I have. And obviously, we all want all good things, right? Who wants just one good thing when we can have all good things? But so what the moon was telling me is, hey, we're going to connect these 2 images so that, yeah, it doesn't matter. She could be standing and holding the 2 infants. She could be doing this or that. But let's go ahead and have her seated. And that way it'll be like a fulfillment of all good things via financial stuff, right? So your entire life gets better through your finances. Whew. A lot of us are in that position, right, where we could use that. So anyway, that was sort of the moon's message there. Anyway, so the reason I'm making this video, though, is to just kind of give an overview. But it's sort of, I'm trying to get you thinking about, different ways that we can approach magic and the sort of, ins and outs. So anyway, today is not the 24th or the 3rd mansion, it's the 25th mansion, the lucky of the tents. So the way that I do this is I will draw the image. In this case, the image is a man planting trees. And again, I'm more of a doodler. I just want it to be visible enough. And so I have a man planting trees. And then there's an angel name. And in this case, the angel's name, the name is Aziel. And Aziel is the name of the angel. So I wrote that in Enochian letters and from right to left instead of left to right. But that's the main thing. And then what I did simply was I vibrated it. Usually there's usually a specific kind of incense associated with that. I basically I'm not always good about that, but what I'll do is I'll say, look, a couple of general purpose, all it's all good kind of incenses to me are frankincense and star anise. I had a little bit of star anise here. I could barely kind of take it, but it sort of triggered that whole you know, sensorial, that sense of, okay, this is star anise, you know, that I remembered that, and that pleasant smell that star anise gives. So anyway, here's what it came out to look like. And you can see here, it's clearly a dude because I put a beard on it. You know, I mean, it's not going to be perfect, right? But put a beard on, you know, we're going to genderify that person as a man. And then there are little saplings around that I have there, too big to be, you know, to generally be, you know, of the flower size. But usually you're not going to plant a huge tree. You're going to plant something, you know, on that side, about that size. So the little dip there that he has, etc. And then what I did is, because this is a lunar thing, even though it's not the hour of the moon necessarily, or the day of the moon, it's a Friday when I'm making this, I still vibrate it 7 times to say this is a lunar operation that I'm doing. I am taking advantage of the fact that this is the month where Cancer, the sign of the moon, or the sign that the moon rules, is very bona fide, because Jupiter is exalted there and the other benefic Venus is there. So I'm like, hey, you know, let me go ahead and do this. Plus, financially, like I said, I'm kind of in a place where it's now or never, right? If I'm gonna put the third version of magic on there, I'm going to. So, by the way, when it comes to financial magic, you know, I'm kind of an up against the wall kind of person. I'm not perfect about this by any means, but so far it's been angels, jinn, uh, sigils, and you know, goetic entities, and now the mansions of the moon that I'm like, I'm both trying to reconcile with all of these energies, be on good terms, be in a state of rectification, but also I'm trying to, you know, ask, you know, politely ask favors. So anyway, that's where I am right now. Again, like I said in previous videos, I've kind of evolved on the whole Goetia thing, and you know, I'm not necessarily looking for, you know, I've sort of changed my view on them. Like, yeah, they're divine too. So why am I like making a whole thing? Anyway, that's it. If you have any questions or are looking for perspective, just reach out as always, either through Enochian.today or, of course, this video. Thanks so much. Bye.